The thing about hearing difficulties is you can still get the rough gist of most conversations. You know, just about. You might miss some great jokes. The one about the rabbit and the scarf. Like that one. But you'll get a vague idea. And that's okay, isn't it? Not for us, it's not. At Specsavers, we think just okay hearing isn't okay. So book a free hearing check with one of our hearing experts today and be part of the conversation. Specsavers. Okay hearing is not okay.
We live by two words now, Sean. You know, what if? Yeah. What if we knew about sepsis?
This week marks Sepsis Awareness Day. You've no doubt heard of it, but can you spot the signs? Well, let me explain.
Let Me Explain with Sean Defoe, a Newstalk original.
Welcome to the podcast. Very glad to have your ears this week for kind of a difficult topic and a much longer podcast than we would usually do. But this week marks World Sepsis Awareness Day. And as part of that, I've been speaking to some people with personal histories and stories related to a condition that most of us probably don't know that much about beyond the name. So this week we're exploring it in depth. And first, let's get an idea of the impact that it can have on a family. Joe and Karen Hughes lost their son Sean to sepsis. He was a rapper known as Lil Red. And when we picked up the conversation, the family were telling me all about Sean.
So Sean was 15 and a half. He was an up and coming rap artist. He wrote and recorded all his own material. He actually had a scholarship in school, the secondary school he was in, which Cláiste Own, called The Rising Tide, and they would have he wanted to be a producer, and they would have put him on the right path for that, but he was awarded a scholarship and he was absolutely thrilled with that. But besides that, Sean had many, many friends. He really did, and everyone loved him. He was an absolute little gentleman, he was, and everyone just took to him. He was that kind of kid. You know, I used to say, like a magnet. People just attract you all the time, you know. And he knew everybody. You couldn't walk down the street without Sean stopping every few minutes to talk to someone or shake their hand or give them a hug or, you know. So, and he had respect for everyone. He was really wise beyond his years as well for his age, you know. And people used to think he was actually older, you know. So he had a great outlook on life, Sean did, and was very, very positive. You know, and yeah, I could go on for days telling you about Sean. I really could, you know.
You know, we were told, yeah, Sean could walk into any room and make a friend, you know. He was, and we found out the friends of Sean have called him their role model. You know, that's something that will always stick with me, you know. But he had his whole life ahead of him, and he was going to be destined for great things. Because from an early age, with his character and things we heard him back, myself and Karen, we knew that he was destined for good things, you know.
He sounds like a kind of fellow who just lights up a room, and he was very fashion conscious as well. Am I right in that?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
He was up to date with all the latest fashion and the runners and all the Stone Island gear and everything that was the fashion he'd save up for, and he'd get, you know. A young man, the haircuts, the hair had to be perfect all the time. You know, you would be surprised if he's caught Sean in the shower 2 or 3 times a day, changing his clothes to go back out. He's just doing regular things that teenagers do, you know.
And he was a natural performer as well, by the sounds of it. But he had actually performed on pretty big stages.
He did. He actually performed in Croke Park. He performed in the National Concert Hall. He performed in the Aviva Stadium. He performed in
Helix.
The Helix, the Ballymun. It was an African week, and they actually asked Sean would he rap that week, and he did. It's not a bother to him, and he would have just performed anywhere he was asked, you know, at the drop of a hat. But yeah, he done all the big events, you know. He did.
He sounds like a great kid. Tell us then, I suppose, we have to get into the sadder side of the story. What happened?
So on January the 8th, 2018, Sean came home from school and he was displaying flu-like symptoms. And he said, I don't feel great. He said, I feel like I have a flu coming on me. So I said, look, I said, the best thing you can do, I said, you're off tomorrow, go to bed, sweat it out of you. I gave him Nurofen and probably a Lemsip that night. And I said, look, try and sweat it out of you as you do. So the next morning I heard him, he was on his iPad laughing and giggling. I said, he must be feeling somewhat better, you know. So by that evening then, Tuesday evening, he actually said to his sister, Zoe, I don't feel great again. He said, it's like it's coming and going on me, you know. So I said, just see how you are in the morning. I said, so I woke him, I went to wake him for school on the Wednesday morning. And he said to me, I feel absolutely rotten, he said. So I said, okay. I said, he was a bit chesty at that stage and sniffling and the usual flu-like symptoms, you know. But he said, I feel drained. He said, I've no energy. And so I said, look, I said, I'll ring the doctor, see can I get an appointment. So I was lucky enough to get an appointment at 11:30 that morning. So I brought Sean down to the family GP and she checked him over. She said he has a chest infection, an influenza and a high fever. And she said, I'm going to give you an antibiotic in case it progresses to pneumonia. So I said, okay. So we're literally in the surgery for 10 minutes and Joe was outside to give him a lift home. I got his prescription then, got the antibiotic into him straight away when I came home. And the usual then giving him his vitamin C's, oranges and stuff like that, you know, to build up his immune system. So then by that night then he was coughing a lot more. And I said, the antibiotic is probably not getting into his system because he's actually coughing up phlegm now at this stage, you know. So by Thursday, or Wednesday night actually, he came in to me. I was in bed and I was checking on him every now and again, you know. And he came in to me and he was actually literally lying on my floor and he said, Ma, I feel like I'm going to die. And I said, okay, I said, well, people do say that when they have flu as well. You know, the way that they feel rotten. So he kind of in and out of a sleep and stuff like that. So Thursday morning then he said, don't feel great again. He said, I actually feel worse. So by that stage I was getting a bit concerned and I was saying, will I bring him into the hospital or not? And then at that time, I don't know whether you remember, the Aussie flu had hit Ireland in 2018. And there was actually ads on the telly from the HSC telling you not to bring anyone to hospital that has a flu. And that's what Sean was being treated for. So, and then it was only later then we found out that Sean would have been turned away because he only had a flu and he was already on an antibiotic. So the outcome there would have been a lot different maybe, you know. So I said, you know what, I'm going to actually bring him back down to his GP in the morning. Maybe she could give me a letter to send him in because he doesn't seem to be getting any better. That was a Thursday night. We were watching TV together. I was on one sofa, Sean was on the other. Didn't leave his side and he was breathless at this stage as well and trying to talk in between breaths. And he actually said to me, you can watch that crap you watch on Netflix, he said. And he said, I don't mind. And he just stopped talking. And I knew straight away I was trying to wake him and I couldn't wake him. And I was calling his name and I called for Joe. He'd stopped breathing at that stage. I called for Joe and Joe ran down and administered CPR to Sean while I phoned the paramedics then. And they got him into Temple Street. We hadn't a clue what had happened to Sean. And it was 6:30 Friday morning, the 12th of January 2018. We were told that there was no hope for Sean, that the machines would have to be turned off because there'd be catastrophic injury done to his brain. Yeah, so we were just thrown into turmoil then and we hadn't a clue because he was being treated for a flu and a chest infection, you know, and then the next few hours then he was dead. Yeah.
Look, my heart goes out to both of you. It must have been an absolutely horrendous time and you can still see, you know, in you, it's obviously not pleasant to talk about. Joe, I suppose one of the scariest things for people who are listening to this is you did everything right along the way. And I know I can remember chest infections and flus that I've had that sound very similar and a lot of people will have. You know, that's how this gets in. It's not something that's very easy to pick up.
Yeah. I'd be heard. Look, our lives changed from that day onwards, we've an empty feeling since Sean passed away. And we talk about Sean every day. And it's important. It's an important thing to us to keep his memory alive. And that's why we set up our campaign, the Red's Legacy Sepsis Awareness Campaign. You know, you say, we understand that it's very hard to pick up. And our whole campaign is around sepsis awareness and the signs and symptoms. And we've liaised many, many times with the agency. You know, if it's something that's so hard to detect, if a child or any person is present themselves at the GP or hospital, why don't they test for that first? Because it's so hard to rule it out.
Rule it out, yeah.
Go over the top and rule it out. Because if it's not sepsis, thank God. But if it is, you've caught it early. You know, one of the things that stick with us is, you know, us as parents, we didn't know anything about sepsis. You know, we live by 2 words now, Sean. You know, what if?
Yeah.
What if we knew about sepsis? What if the 3 different sets of medical professionals knew about sepsis? You know, would Sean be still with us today? They're the words that haunt us. You know, what if? You know?
It was only after, it was 2 weeks later, Sean had passed away. And we found out then that Sean had died from sepsis. And the GP said to me, have you heard of it? And I said, I did hear of it, I said, but I never would have related it to the illness that Sean had. I always used to think it was maybe from a cut that wasn't treated because it was known as blood poisoning then. So we knew very little about it. So that's why we started then our research into it to see what had killed our son, you know.
You know, when Sean passed away first, and I wanted to Google, I wanted to find out what this word was, sepsis. I never heard of it before. It could have been like a tropical disease. I never knew what it was. So we Googled as we did, and there was a national sepsis program which was set up in 2014, but there was nothing in it. This is what led us to start up our own campaign. And we unfortunately, whichever way you look at it, we had to petition the agency, and we had them in front of a committee in the Oireachtas a year and a half ago, asking them to ramp up their awareness for the public and in the healthcare setting. None of them is being done in this country around sepsis. And they have come up trumps. It has happened. They've sent us the first draft of the 5-year action plan on the strategy for sepsis from the agency, which we hope it will it come to fruition. It looks great on paper, Sean, but when we see it in the flesh, we'll be happy. You know, well, everything that we do, what gets us up out of bed now, is our grandson. His name is Sean too. He's named after our son. He has a lot of his temperaments and his personality traits on him, you know. But no, our lives were shattered after our son passed away from a preventable death. You know, sepsis is the world's leading cause of preventable death and disabilities, and it kills 11 million people, an average of 11 million people worldwide. You know, there's an average of 8 deaths a day in Ireland along from sepsis. That's only what's reported. They're not figures we make up, Sean. They're from the National Statistics Office and the Royal College of Surgeons Ireland. We didn't make them up. If we were to make them up, Sean, we wouldn't make them as drastic as the truth. You know. But you know, we host a lot of public awareness events, and we do a lot of work through social media. You know, again, with September being Sepsis Awareness Month, and the 13th September being World Sepsis Day, we have a number of things on the go. And as I said, every year it goes from strength to strength. But we're just glad now the agency have come on board, and it's unfortunate that we had to get them in front of the Oireachtas committee. But that's what had to be done, and I see they've done the job.
When you say, you know, the what if, it's you know, it's a horrible thing to have to ask, but maybe bring me inside the conversations that you guys would have had with the doctors and with medical professions afterwards, because it sounds like, Karen, you were doing everything you could to treat what you thought he had, and really it should be up to them to spot this.
And I've always said to Sean that the onus shouldn't be on the parents. That information should be in your face, literally, like other campaigns around illnesses in Ireland. And it just seemed to be very hidden. You know, when we went to look for it then, and we were like, why isn't this in the public domain? Because it's a very sinister disease that is preventable, you know, and we just couldn't fathom that it wasn't out there for the public knowledge. You know, like us, like I should have known about it. Joe should have known about it. We hadn't a clue, you know.
You know, when we at the beginning of our campaign, as I say, we're coming up to Sean's 7th anniversary, and at the start of our campaign, at one stage, Sean, we had more sepsis awareness material in our house than there was in all of Ireland. The HSE were not putting out any posters, any social media posts to do with sepsis. It wasn't even listed on their website. Everything else from scabies to heart to cancer, stroke, everything. Sepsis wasn't there. Sepsis wasn't like it is now, though.
Yes.
And that's all down to Little Red's legacy. You know, sepsis training now is mandatory for all healthcare officials. And I'm not sure if it's every 3 or every 4 years. That's a direct result of Little Red's legacy. You know, we can go on what has been done since our campaign. We had to bring them in front of the Oireachtas. There's a time that we've been in there more times than some of the politicians. We've been in there to give our sepsis awareness presentation. We take time out of our life to go around schools, colleges and sports clubs to give our sepsis awareness presentation, which we think is something that the HSE should be doing. We don't get a salary out of this. We don't look for a tap on the back. We don't look for everything's not a photo opportunity to us. We don't get any funding. We don't ask for any. We're not a charity. We do. So what if people don't have to go through what we're going through? When we reached out to find out what this is all about, there was nothing. Now there's plenty.
And as well as that, Sean, another thing that we said, you know, we couldn't learn about sepsis and what Sean had died from and not tell other people about it, because we couldn't let another family go through what we go through every day, because it's absolutely horrendous. And for us not to give that information, you know, it wouldn't have felt right. So that's another reason as well why we did it, we started up the campaign, you know, and Sean would have wanted that to help people, you know.
It's another pity that great things come out of tragedies. Why do we have to wait till there's a tragedy for something good to come out of it? And why does it have to be our tragedy of our son, you know? But on the other side of the coin, if our son hadn't had sepsis, we still wouldn't know what it is. We'd still be ignorant to it, you know. Just for, you know, we're trying to get we have a number of creches and home care companies now that have committed to adding sepsis awareness training to new and existing members of staff, and they've added to the website. You know, we've done that. We've achieved that.
Yeah, and it's a massive amount you've done in just a short space of time. I suppose for any parents who are listening to this and who maybe they might have a child who is sick, or they might be sick themselves, and they're now thinking, oh Lord, could this be something more? What are you looking for? What are the signs that you know, this is a normal infection that will run its course versus this could be sepsis?
The thing is, I found with Sean, when I originally thought he had a flu and a chest infection, you know, and the way I look at, or the easiest way that I could tell anybody is, if that person is not getting better, even with an antibiotic, and you feel that they're declining, or you seem to be declining a bit more, then getting better, you know. And some of the signs, like, I mean, Sean had probably 4 or 5 of them signs, which I didn't recognise because I knew nothing about sepsis. He had breathlessness. He had mottled skin. He wasn't passing urine in a day. You know, he was drinking a lot, but wasn't passing urine. And it's only now, in hindsight, which is a great thing, that now I know the signs to look out for. You know, but I always tell people, if you have that gut feeling that your child or your loved one is not getting better, you know, think sepsis and go present to A&E or your GP, or if you have to ring your GP, just say, look, I suspect sepsis. And I don't want to alarm anybody, or I don't want to be overthinking this, but don't be afraid to ask, could it be sepsis? Because they have a different mindset now in the hospitals too when you do ask, which is great too, but just to be vigilant of, because not all the signs will present themselves as well. So that's all more reason to be vigilant and ask, and it's all about time as well,
Nobody knows their own body better than you yourself. Nobody knows your child better than you. Or if there's a carer going into it to somebody's home that knows they're out of sorts, they're acting differently than usual. If the infection seems to be progressing, because sepsis can hide behind any infection, but infection has to be present first. So one of the good things is with the pharmacies, we're looking at getting the pharmacies will be able to give out sepsis awareness information too now, going forward. Hopefully this is the way it'll go now with the Minister for Health at the moment. That's one of the plans he's looking at. We know that doctors and the hospitals are quite busy. When you look up the website, if you're in doubt, check it out. But it's always rule it out, because it's all about time. And sepsis does not discriminate. Sean was a 15-year-old, healthy, fit young man, no underlying health issues. So if he can get it, anybody can get it. Old, young, people that have underlying health conditions are more susceptible to getting it. They're more likely to get it because they're more likely to get infection. So we asked, one of the things, if there's something that I don't understand, I would Google it. Instead of looking at the social media all of the time, just educate yourself. And if our website, Little Red's Legacy.ie, or the HSC have it now, which wasn't there before our campaign, and they'll tell you that. And they thank us. They thank us for giving them the kick up the butt, for doing where they are now with it, And I will go back to saying it's unfortunate, and I think it's a tragedy for something good to happen.
Yeah. And look, you've both clearly channeled something horrific in your own lives into something very positive, and you should be absolutely commended for doing that. I suppose finally the only question I kind of have to ask, it is coming up at this 7th year anniversary. I mean, how are you both doing after nearly 7 years?
Good day of the lads, John. Every day is different. And as Joe said, the little grandson now, he keeps us going, which is great. He's starting big school now, so my time is taken with him as well, and so is Joe's, and he keeps us going.
He does, yeah.
He really does, and it's the fact that we're doing it for our heir, Sean, that keeps us going too. Keep his memory alive, keep his legacy going, and we'd love to see it just forever. We really would,
we've had to get the snowball rolling. Let's keep it rolling.
That was Joe and Karen Hughes, and we chatted